dreading your annual family Thanksgiving gathering? Does the thought of your drunk, racist MAGA uncle droning on about beta cucks, CRTs, Antifa, trans rights, and cryptocurrency put you right off your fresh roasted tofurkey? Why not try MAGA Way from April Biochemicals? Just one spray keeps maggots away.
Recorded in front of a lively studio audience in rowdy Round Rock, Texas, it's the What's Update with Xander IMDb.
Season 6.
Cognitive dissonance and
socioeconomic disparity. Welcome to the What's Update. I'm Xander IMDb. Here's what happened. It is impossible for an operation as small as ours to keep up with the day-to-day insanity. We figure it's even harder for y'all, so we've decided to use this segment for the foreseeable future to remind you of things that you may have forgotten or missed in the bedlam of bullshit we call daily life in Trump's America. We recorded our previous episode on February 8th, and this is all the stupid, cringe, and dangerous shit he and his cadre of cockwaffle have done in the last 35 days.
Cockwaffle, that's creative.
Yeah, I think Craig was on that one.
Yeah, it seems like a Craig.
Part of a penis panini, but cockwaffle.
The technical term is paninis.
Panini.
Oh.
But a cockwaffle.
Or a pancock, if you will.
Oh.
Yeah, we just show, mammal.
Alright then. February 9th. President Trump only attended half of Super Bowl 59, leaving right after the halftime show. I wonder why that was. Maybe we should ask Drake to explain it. This stunt cost the American taxpayers between $4 and $20 million. Nice. I'm sure there'll eventually be an executive order pinning the cost and the Kansas City Chiefs' loss on Taylor Swift. Only time will tell. February 10th, Trump ordered his Attorney General Pam Bondi to have the Justice Department stop enforcing the Anti-Bribery Foreign Corrupt Practices Act.
Ring, 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 ring.
Hello, who is it? Hello? What have we got here?
The corruption is coming from inside the house.
Which house?
The White House, duh.
Ah, there. Fucking robocallers. February 11th. According to the Associated Press, Trump barred an AP reporter from an executive order signing event because the AP style guide says to use Gulf of Mexico instead of Gulf of America. In order to be kept as far from Trump's ass as possible, Forbes magazine refers to it as the Gulf of Economic Disparity. February 12th. A video went viral of Elon Musk's son, X. Wait, hold the fuck on. I'm the only bona fide X in Texas here.
That is damn true.
That brat can kiss the baby. Anyway, a video went viral of X Musk in the Oval Office telling Trump, "You're not the president and you need to go away, and shut your mouth." Funny that X told them that because Threads and Blue Sky have been saying that the whole goddamn time. You gotta catch up, buddy. February 13th, it was reported that Trump's Undersecretary of State, Darren Beattie, has repeatedly proposed the idea of forced sterilization of, quote, lower quality humans. You're too late, man. Trump already has kids and grandkids. The damage is done.
It's too late, man.
February 14th, the National Park Service removed all references to transgender and queer people from its main page about the Stonewall National Monument in New York City. You know, while you're already erasing people from history, I can only assume that next you'll refer to Auschwitz as a high-capacity bakery.
Oh, mammal, that's too far.
That's...
I get the feeling that this might be Apollo's dodgeball of prophecy banging me in the head, because that might happen.
God.
February 15th. We're halfway through.
No, we're not.
Halfway through February.
Okay, fine.
February 15th, while drinking some hardcore hooch tucked away not so secretly under the podium, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth informed NATO defense ministers in Brussels that the US was there to, quote, make NATO great again. You know, I think it may have actually worked. They're definitely trying to make European defense production great again, which means that pretty soon NATO won't be needing Raytheon, Boeing, or General Electric to make weapons. Nice work, drunkie. You played yourself. February 16th. Air Force One did a Top Gun flyover at the Daytona 500.
Negative, Ghost Rider. You do not have any balls.
Now, this would have been pretty cool if Joe Biden had done it, because Uncle Joe really rocked the aviator glasses.
For real,
Yeah,
though.
he did.
Bet you didn't know that operation of Air Force One costs approximately $2,964 per minute. Hey, Donnie, I've heard that you can get strangers to make you feel better about your sad mush-lump manhood for a whole lot less per hour. But you already knew that, didn't you?
He does.
February 17th, calling President's Day, quote, No King's Day, protesters rallied in dozens of cities across the United States. This is a second set of rallies organized by the 50-51 movement, which stands for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. Unfortunately, they're up against 50 states, one country, one fucking idiot. So, the cards are stacked. February 18th, Trump officials announced that he had signed an executive order claiming that, quote, only the president can speak for what the law is. Motherfucker, you can't even properly define what asylum seekers are, because the last time you were asked, you made it sound like you thought they were guests at Arkham. I'm not entirely convinced that that's purely a joke.
Yeah, probably not.
February 19th, Trump called Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky a dictator after he said that Trump lived in a circle of Russian disinformation. Once again, Trump demonstrates that he doesn't know what words mean. I mean, maybe he should pay the next porn star to smack his ass with a dictionary. I mean, it would still be cheaper than doing a Top Gun flyby at the Daytona 500, so better for the economy. February 20th. While whipping up the crowd at CPAC, Steve Bannon talked about the possibility of Trump staying in office for a third term, and concluded by giving a Heil half-wit Nazi salute.
Well, you know, once a Nazi.
Always a Nazi.
For real.
And, you know what Steve Rogers said? If you see a Nazi, punch a Nazi.
Captain America.
Exactly. February 21st. Trump fired the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Charles Q. Brown Jr., a 4-star general, a fighter pilot, and only the second African-American to hold the job. To thoroughly remove him from government records, he will also be recategorized as a Tuskegee Airman.
Damn.
Callbacks.
Yeah, no, they're from the last episode.
Yeah.
Badass.
February 22nd, Elon Musk, in a short email from his stupid Doge department, gave all federal workers 48 hours to, quote, reply to this email with approximately 5 bullets of what you accomplished last week. I don't know about you, but many of those workers are veterans, and I guarantee those guys can accomplish a lot with 5 bullets.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, for real, though.
It's gonna be a bit more than glass to the ear, buddy. February 23rd, apartheid Edison himself, Elon Musk, brought out a chainsaw to the CPAC conference at National Harbor in Maryland, yelling, quote, "This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy!" Meanwhile, the American public is waiting for the guillotine for socioeconomic disparity. I'm just saying, they were pretty efficient. We need to bring those back.
Yeah, you just get them, boom, boom, boom.
It all just stays in the bowl. Their head.
All just stays in the basket.
Stay in the
Stays
basket.
in the
Just into the basket.
Plus, then, to test it, everybody gets free watermelon. Because, you know, you've seen cartoons.
Yeah, sure.
February 24th, U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman ruled that the Department of Education and Office of Personnel Management must stop sharing federal employees and student borrowers' personal data with Elon Musk's Doge officials, saying such access appears to violate federal privacy laws. In other news, Jeffrey Dahmer's meat locker appeared to have been comprised of human flesh. Like, come on, man. February 25th, we're almost there. Trump said that the U.S. will start selling permanent residency in the USA for $5 million per person. He said that he is turning green cards into, quote, gold cards, believing that it will bring wealthy people to the U.S. Great. Just what we need. More Russians in tracksuits and foreign douche bros. Where's Hawkeye or Kate Bishop when you need them?
Hanging out with Jeff the Land Shark.
Hell yeah, Jeff is based. February 26th, on his so-called Truth Social platform, Trump reposted an AI-generated video showing Gaza as a sandy resort, complete with a Trump Gaza hotel and casino, large golden statues of him in the city square, many golden Trump statues available for sale in the streets, and Elon throwing money in the air for poor children to fight over. I really wish this was our one line per episode, but it's not.
For real, it's not.
It was horrible. February 27th, in a memo, Trump ordered the Pentagon to identify and fire transgender members of the U.S. military. There's no joke for this. That shit is just evil.
For real.
February 28th.
We're almost done with February.
Yes.
Haha.
Framing the Ukraine war as a real estate deal gone wrong, Trump and VP Vance scolded Ukrainian President Zelensky and repeated Putin's propaganda. President Zelensky bowed out of the meeting early, citing his inability to stomach the nauseating stank of Putin's dick on their breath.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And also, I think they were out of magazines at that point, so...
That just makes me think of when Jasmine Crockett called him Putin's hoe.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great.
We'll get back to Jasmine Crockett later.
She's awesome.
March 1st.
Yay, March.
Documents seized in the FBI's raid on Mar-a-Lago were returned to now President Trump. I guess that since he already sold the information and got away with it, those national secrets are just a stack of worthless paper that smell like a tacky Florida country club outhouse. Up next for the same stench, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Yes.
Okay.
I tell you, Nicolas Cage is not going to be happy about that. February 2nd, Trump signed an executive order... March 2nd. All the months are running together, man.
I know. The time dilation field's a fucker.
It's terrible. March 2nd, Trump signed an executive order making English the official language of the United States, which is the kind of dumbass rule that the country hasn't needed for almost 250 years. Besides, it's not like the current president speaks the language worth a shit anyway. March 3rd, claiming that, quote, heavy-handed federal policies have made America reliant on foreign timber imports, Trump issued another executive order demanding an expansion in tree cutting across 280 million acres of national forests and other public lands. The executive order instructed officials to circumvent the Endangered Species Act by using unspecified emergency powers to ignore protections on vulnerable creatures' habitats, and for the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management to increase logging targets. I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees. You chop down my forests, I break your fucking knees.
Yeah.
March 4th. At the State of the Union address, Al Green, a Texas Democrat congressman, was ejected after he shouted at the president and refused to sit down. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries aren't standing up for anybody.
More on that later.
March 5th. Trump threatened Hamas in a social media post, saying, quote, I'm sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. Really? Do as you say? You can't even spell Palestine, man. How the fuck am I supposed to understand what you're saying when you don't even speak freaking English? March 6th. Following up on the previous episode, SpaceX has screwed the pooch on liftoff for the second time in a row.
Yay,
Leon...
fireworks.
Yeah. Expensive fireworks. Leon's Starship rocket got the full Hindenburg experience just minutes after takeoff over the Bahamas.
Because that's what you need, is just a bunch of space shit falling down in the Bahamas.
No, wait, my friend the Black Mamba said the Bahamas are pretty nice.
Your friend the Black Mamba is problematic.
No, he's a cool guy.
Well, I mean, Florida is already covered in a whole bunch of other shit anyways, but now it's space shit!
Space shit!
Anyway, March 7th, in an overenthusiastic effort to purge the Defense Department of references to diversity, equality, and inclusion, the Pentagon marked tens of thousands of photos and online posts for deletion. Among those items scheduled for censorship are a Second World War Medal of Honor recipient, the first woman to pass U.S. Marine infantry training, and the aircraft that dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, a plane named the Enola Gay, after the pilot's mother. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I think being that afraid of the word gay is even gayer than 4 guys want 5 guys. But hey, maybe that's just me.
Oh, that fourth guy.
It's having to pull double duty.
Man,
Double duty.
Keep it in the bowl.
It all just stays in the bowl. March 8th. Showing once again that you can't shake the devil's hand and claim you're kidding, Amy Coney Barrett, one of Mango Mussolini's own appointed Supreme Court justices, is on the chopping block from MAGA.
Couldn't happen to a nicer person.
Hell yeah. After voting against Trump's attempt to freeze nearly $2 billion in foreign aid, Barrett has now been branded as a D.E.I. judge.
There's that D.E.I. again.
Or it might have been the I smell the shit in your pants look that she gave the Tangerine Toddler at the State of the Union. Like, you could tell that she was getting the stench.
She did. You could,
That dude's grody.
He's a grody.
That part did not stay in the bowl.
Ass.
Wash your ass.
That part did not stay in the bowl. March 9th, in the midst of a signing event regarding a task force for the FIFA World Cup, Pepe Cheeto started yapping about election interferences. Specifically, he talked about how, quote, "When we made this, it was made during my term, my first term, and it was so sad because I said, can you imagine, I'm not going to be president, and that's too bad." Later adding, "And what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so it was a good thing." It's unclear whether he was talking about his false claims of the 2020 election being rigged against him, or Elon rigging the 2024 election in his favor, but let's be real here, it was probably the latter.
Yeah. All 7 swing states?
Yep. March 10th, Mario Day. March 10th, the Chump-in-Chief shared an article on Truth Social from notorious right-wing shitslinger The Washington Times, featuring a great big pink triangle graphic. For context, a pink triangle was notoriously used by the Nazis to denote, demean, and destroy queer men, soon to be the new logo for log cabin Republicans.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. March 11th. Trump basically held a full-on Tesla sales pitch right out on the White House lawn. Meanwhile, Leon was heard under the podium whispering, "Just look forward and think of Ivanka," while delivering Donnie the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Actually, with Don, according to Stormy Daniels, like maybe 3, and that's being
2-knuckle shuffle, generous.
Tweezers.
Anyway, March 12th, after a phone call between Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and con man-in-chief and Russian asset Agent Krasnov, she stated, quote, "I told President Trump the best way to make rapists and criminals feel unwelcome in the U.S. is for their citizens to stop electing them."
Damn!
That story's not true, but you could completely imagine President Sheinbaum dropping this epic diss right to his stupid cara naranja. Unlike legacy media, I will only lie to you once per episode, and that was it. March 13th. Pete Hegseth, current defense secretary and result of putting 3-month-old mayonnaise through an AI art generator, is set to overhaul U.S. military law in an effort to do away with restrictions from the laws of armed conflict. These restrictions prohibit war crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity such as extermination, enslavement, deportation or forcible transfer of a population, torture, rape and other serious forms of sexual violence, enforced disappearance, and apartheid. Even apartheid? Gee, I wonder who suggested that, Elon.
Don't know.
It's a mystery.
Indeed.
Well, it's more like a history because he belongs in a toilet.
True.
March 14th, the Trump administration turned its sights to government and select nonprofit works, closing applications for all income-driven repayment plans and restricting eligibility for public service loan forgiveness. For context, that program focuses on loan forgiveness after completing 10 years of service and minimum payments. Because people won't realize they're slaves to the military-industrial complex at only 9 years of service, right?
Do the math, man.
March.
You do the math.
You do the math.
Fuck off, Craig. March 15th. Not really a good day, right?
Oh, the Ides of March.
Yeah.
Lovely.
March 15th. A draft for a new travel ban has been circulating inside the administration, which lists 3 tiers of 43 countries whose citizens may face restrictions on entering the United States. Mostly African, South Asian, Middle Eastern countries. You know, brown people places. We gotta warn a few people about that.
Yeah, we got some people on the list need to know not to leave the country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and on that dour note, stick around. We'll be right back.
Yeah!
Welcome back. There's an old saying in my family that I'm happy to say has made its way into Zed speak and the vernacular around my neck of the woods. The method by which it gained popularity isn't the most fortunate, but I'm glad to hear it nonetheless. It's something along the lines of, arguing with an idiot is like playing chess with a pigeon. It'll just knock over the pieces, shit on the board, and strut about like it's won. It's meant to be a reassurance and a conservation of energy and time, as trying to inflict knowledge on some slobbering idiot is a fruitless endeavor and not worth the hassle. This is why, in previous videos, I recommend mercilessly insulting and ridiculing MAGA Republicans rather than trying to bring an intellectual argument with them. No amount of lectures, slideshows, or gum is gonna knock some sense into that overcooked noodle they call a head.
Try more gum, animal!
The gum helps me think. Sweetie, you're wasting your gum. Unfortunately, some people haven't quite gotten this message. And even less fortunately, most of them are taking up space in Congress. So here's the thing. Democratic senators, representatives, minority leaders, committee members, and other positions of government are still trying to play a try-hard game of chess on a board drenched in Republican pigeon shit. They're abiding by traditional rules of government that maggots are actively, blatantly, and offensively throwing out the window. They're feckless, callow, helpless, hopeless, witless, dickless, and above all, weak. See? We don't just make fun of Republicans on this show. Unlike Democratic leadership, we are fair in a way that's effective and entertaining. Back to the point. Democratic leadership in Congress is constantly playing a game of sternly worded emails and backing down at the first sign of opposition in the name of bipartisanship and maintaining legislative norms. Naturally, this doesn't amount to anything, as Republican leadership can always rely on them to try their best to play by rules that redcaps don't acknowledge. Not only is it a waste of time and resources, but it makes those of us actually putting in an effort to oppose fascism look bad. There are two primary culprits of this lack of effort and will, so let's break them down. Hakeem Jeffries is the House Minority Leader for the Democratic Party, and is a prime example of telling and not showing. Despite having a position of reasonable power in the House of Representatives, Jeffries doesn't exactly do much with it. The position offers a few duties and abilities focused on maintaining the influence of the current minority party. These include providing campaign assistance to party members, devising and executing strategies to advance party objectives, publicizing the party agenda, and promoting party harmony. To be fair, he can't do much, but his main job is to unite the party and engage in meaningful opposition to the redcap majority. However, what Jeffries actually does most of the time is hop on Twitter to switch into his Super Zero alter ego, Captain Obvious. He'll post shit every day saying things like, Donald Trump is old, tired, and falling apart mentally, or House Dems condemn political violence and hatred, extreme maggot Republicans joke about it, do better. No shit, Sherlock, I've been yapping about it for 5 years now. I've said things that are 10 times worse and 20 times funnier. You have a rare position of influence in the Democratic Party, but instead of furthering the goals and funding of younger, more capable, and far more energized politicians, you sit on your fucking thumbs and whine on Leon's dogshit platform. Like, do better? How about you do something?
For real.
And moving on to a somehow less useful and more milquetoast waste of a chair, Chuck Schumer. Schumer occupies a similar position of influence and organization as the Senate Minority Leader, developing and encouraging the minority party platform, directing floor activity and planning, and negotiating with the majority party. Keep that last one in mind for later. As the second stop for incoming bills, provisions, and priorities for the federal government, Schumer's position in the Senate has a lot of potential to keep shitty MAGA activities from taking effect. Unfortunately, all this buttermilk bastard does is talk a mild game, whine about redcaps not playing fair, and then bow to their every fucking whim in the name of bipartisanship.
Shit.
For example, Schumer and 10 Senate Democrats recently capitulated to push through a short-term spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Wrong. This bill also included more redcap tactics to fuck over the American people. Namely, a minor increase to the overall defense budget at the cost of around $13 billion slashed from non-defense programs, characterized as a blank check for Trump. And in the spirit of moving forward and healing and compromise, or whatever the fuck the other party leaders are spewing, Schumer passed it through, no issue. All these motherfuckers do is talk the talk and back down at the first sign of struggle. MAGA Republicans are actively tearing down the foundations of government, and Democrat leaders are still playing like the board isn't fully white with pigeon crap. There are some notable exceptions, such as AOC and Jasmine Crockett fighting the good fight and talking as much shit as possible straight to redcaps' faces. If you ever need a quick boost of hope and confidence for the future, look up whatever is the most recent play from Representative Crockett. Homegirl's got that game on lockdown. As for the rest of them, not much is going well. I like to think about it in two distinct perspectives: the American Revolution and Ghosts of Tsushima. I'll start with a historical reference to seem at least somewhat professional.
That would be nice for a change.
Yeah.
Try it for once, mammal.
Yeah, see if we like it. Part of the reason the American Revolution went so well was because of a distinct difference in understanding of warfare. The British went in with the standard rank and file setup of lining up riflemen and firing in sync. The revolutionaries, however, used guerrilla warfare tactics, like ambushes, sneak attacks, and whatever resources were available to disrupt the unchanging methods of the British. They adapted, they survived, and they won. In the case of Ghost of Tsushima, the crux of the entire story is the rigid code and tactics of the samurai, and how the Mongol invasion exploits it to decimate the island's military forces. It's only once the protagonist, Jin Sakai, evolves into more sneaky, underhanded tactics that things start going well. However, the main leader of the remaining samurai forces, Lord Shimura, refuses to change, and constantly gets on Jin's ass to the point where an entire squadron gets fucking detonated by Mongol forces because he sent them straight into an ambush. Jin instead sneaks into the Mongol-controlled fortress to poison them all, and Shimura arrests him, even though his plan succeeds far better than previous methods. In this case, Democrat leadership is the unchanging, constantly failing samurai that are too caught up in rules that no one is following, and MAGA is the Mongol forces setting fire and explosions to the status quo because pretty much no one is going to stop them because it would be unfair. You know what? I guess that would make Jasmine Crockett an analog for Jin Sakai. I'd play that game.
I would definitely play that game.
That'd be pretty dope. The point here is that playing by the rules and sticking to bipartisan fairness is getting us nowhere fast. Trump and the MAGA crowd can say the quiet parts out loud and edge us closer and closer to a full fascist regime because they know that no one is going to do anything meaningful against them. It's time to stop playing on a stained white chessboard and start slinging some shit of our own. Mm-hmm. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If they hate you, hate them back more. It's hard to focus on healing and moving forward when you don't address the problem right in front of you. Raise your voice, don't stand for fascism, and try your best to make a Red Cap's day worse.
Hell yeah.
Now stick around, because we'll be right back with a special update from our very own Tia Linda with Tia Tips.
Tia Tips, yeah!
Welcome to Tia Tips with Tia Linda.
Tia Tips for living without our constitutional rights, specifically those guaranteed in the First Amendment. Hi, I'm Xander's Tia Linda. Initially, this was supposed to be tips about how to live without our First Amendment rights. Even with the wisdom that comes from living over half a century, I still cannot fathom how to live without them. I was born into freedom. I'm an army brat. As a child, I understood that my father fought for our freedom. I've never known a life where I wasn't free to speak my mind without fear of government control or punishment. I've never known a life where I was afraid to practice my religion for fear of retribution, as Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy faced after she made a plea to the incoming president to have mercy for immigrants and queer children. I've never known a life where the government controlled the press. I remember news stories about people living that way in communist countries. I felt bad for those people. They weren't told the truth. The government just fed them lies, both about their own country and what was going on in the world. I've never known a life where people couldn't peacefully gather to protest. I remember learning about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in school and how people marched to make our country live up to its ideals of liberty and justice for all. And I've never known a life where people didn't have access to their elected officials. In fact, I've been an elected official. I saw our system in action as citizens submitted their requests, got on our agenda, they spoke directly to us in public meetings. I'm proud of the changes we were able to make in response to them. The votes didn't always go my way, but at least the citizens had their say, and we discussed it and voted publicly. So the only tips I have are, what can we do now? First, get your documents in order, your passports, driver's license. Make sure at least 2 people you trust to fight on your behalf have copies of those documents. While we're still able to, attend peaceful protests, call your elected officials, stay current on what's happening, and speak out. If you're able, financially support organizations who are fighting to protect our rights in the courts, such as the ACLU. Reduce spending. Buy from small businesses in cash. Go to Costco and stockpile Plan B. You can buy 2 at a time. Start buying jumbo packs of condoms. Buy physical copies and read the banned books. I've lived through the Cold War. I was at work when the planes flew into the Twin Towers. I'm no stranger to uncertain times, but I've never been so scared of what might happen next. So what do you do to keep sane through the daily barrage of bad news? In the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., hate cannot drive out hate. So I've made it my mission to put as much love into this world as I can. I lead with kindness, I give the benefit of the doubt, and I help others whenever I can. History has its eyes on you. When your grandchildren ask, what did you do to combat the end of democracy? Make sure that you can answer, all that I could.
Oh hey! First, I want to thank my favorite Tia for braving brutal I-35 traffic from San Antonio to Round Rock and back again. Te amo, Tia Linda.
Mm-hmm.
We also always want to thank the half dozen or so of you who watch this Commedia dell'arte style Punch and Judy show regularly. We do this for your entertainment as well as our own. If our absurd little vulgarity voyage takes your mind off of the horrors of the world even for a few minutes, then we feel like we've done our job. If you can think of anything we missed in our recap of the last month, please leave a comment and let us know. Either way, try to stay sane, tell the people that you care about that you love them, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and as always, it is what it is.